Hello everyone, I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic and welcome to the show. This is not a pay-per-view, I forgot my title slide correction. This is a deep woo-woo episode entitled Secrets Revealed with Bryce and Janine. You can find Janine here at Tarot by Janine here on YouTube and also at Sending Ravens. Janine, welcome back to the show.
Hi everybody. Hi Bryce.
Hi.
Hi Jean-Claude.
Hello. And of course you can find the amazing Bryce at Esoteric Atlanta here on YouTube. Bryce, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
Bryce, Janine, I'm excited to have you on. You and I have been, both of you and I have been talking about doing this show for quite some time, and we're excited to get into this topic. So for the audience today, we're doing a kind of live investigation on some missing people's report, and we're going to be looking at two specific locations in the United States. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll bring Bryce on the screen here, and I'm going to have Bryce start with the first location. We're going to pull some cards on the location first, and then we'll get into the characters that went missing in those locations, and then we'll go to the second location and so forth. And as we go through all of this, we'll ask the cards to see if some of the previous investigators' work were right on the money, or if we're missing something with the bigger picture. And of course, for the audience, as you're listening to all of this, you have to think in your mind, wait, does this have to do with Bigfoot? Does this have to do with aliens? Is it interdimensional portals? So that's the topic for today. Exciting show. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this live interactive show. If we have time, we'll try to take some questions and comments as we go as well. So Bryce, the floor is yours. Let's start with this first location.
Okay, so these are cases that I've covered on my channel, and the people that watch my channel know I always end with, we're going to have to ask Janine about this because these are all still mysteries. So the first area we're going to cover is called the Bennington Triangle. And this is in southwestern Vermont, Glastonbury Mountain. Since the beginning of time, they've said, you know, UFOs, portals, Bigfoot, so much weird stuff has happened. So far, over 40 hikers and residents have gone missing from this area, but we're going to focus on 5 residents from 1945 to 1950. These vanishings gave this area the name, the Bennington Triangle. The Native Americans would not go to this area. They actually warned the settlers about this area. They would only go to this area to bury their dead. They believed that the mountain was cursed. They said the 4 winds met there and struggled. The weather there does weird patterns, and it'll suddenly change. And you can actually even look at pictures of some of the natural growth. It grows erratically in this area. The natives also believed that there was a stone at the very top of the mountain, Glastonbury Mountain, that would swallow a person whole. That sounds like a portal to me. So, but that's how they explained it. In 1761, Bennington Wentworth decided he was going to put a town here, and he just drew it, not even being in the area. And obviously all the towns that have ever been here have completely failed, have turned into like ghost towns. At one point, some of the towns were incorporated, but then they lost they got unincorporated because no one could really live here. And so the first question I want to ask the cards, because I trust the Native Americans, what's going on with this location? What do the Native Americans know that we don't know?
Okay. That's a great lead-in. Mysterious. I love it. Now, Bryce, have you been to this location?
No.
I've been to Vermont, but not this particular spot. And there's some other weird spots in Vermont, too. There seems to be a lot of activity there.
One of my moderators lives near this.
Oh,
she
really?
Sees you, yeah. So.
Wow.
Oh. Yikes.
That's
yeah,
dark.
so we got, like, this is a hidden and extremely tricky kind of card. If it's badly aspected, which it was. So we have these 2 around it. So slowly but surely. So it feels like the energy is like I'm going to say a dead zone. I mean, I don't know if I can say that too often. On YouTube, you can't say that D word too many times. You get done. But anyway, so that kind of a zone. So this card, zone. Okay. And it looks like it was badly, like it was being sort of overseen by or being used by what I call the dark cult. But there's other words we could use for that, but not on this show. So I'm thinking, even way back when all of this was going on, there was these guys at play. So we know that they like to abscond with humans for various different reasons. And a long time ago, I did a reading on that. So they could have been doing that since the beginning of time, by the way, right? Because we know this has been going on, and we don't know that our history is correct. It's mostly not correct. So we don't exactly know how it all got started. And then, of course, we also figured out that there's likely off-worlders involved that are the bad ones, not the good off-worlders. That's just how I'll say it. But what I got around the whole situation, we did look into this on the channel, and I did get that people were being taken. We didn't get exactly how, but underground it felt like.
Yeah.
And that it felt like armies of people were getting them. So not just one, but they would be tracked down. So we don't know, could have been reptilian armies, could it have been human armies that work are working for the dark cult? But according to this reading, it's definitely been a zone like that for a really long time, and a place to collect humans.
This actually confirms some of my research on Jekyll Island, because I do believe that this continent has been used. Yeah. And that's interesting, because the second case in here, I actually have a lot of suspicions about the second case being tied to that group more so than the other ones before it. Yeah, the Native Americans always know, don't they? They're like, don't go over there. Just don't go there.
Well, let's dive in a little bit deeper here. Lisa DiMartino says, oh my God, what the hell? Like, yeah, exactly. What the hell? Gateway to hell, maybe. This rock that swallows people whole. I'm curious to know if that's like a force field, if that's like it disappears and people can go into it. I'm curious about the red-haired giants. We've had history of them being on this continent, and of course the Smithsonian's been hard at work erasing that history. Are we talking about a native, maybe not necessarily native, but a species that lives here on Earth that was once maybe above ground? Or are we talking about also collaboration, as you just said, Janine, with maybe some reptilian and other extraterrestrial entities that might be using these mountains here for some nefarious purposes? What are the cards?
Well, when you were very first talking about it, when you described it as a portal, and this card, I was throwing cards, and this card came up.
Big yes.
So that's a big yes. And also we've got this card. So this is interesting. It's usually talking about justice being served. It's right in the middle. And it's interesting because I wonder if this area has been worked on by the good guys at this point.
I had that suspicion when one of my moderators was telling me that she sees stuff, and I'm like, I wonder if they're like working on that area to clean it or to lock it down, you know, and so it can't be used once everything I don't know. I kind of had that suspicion. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Is it possible that in this area, you mentioned all of these weird ghost towns, these towns that fail, like this really dark energy there? Is it possible, Janine, can you pull cards to see if there are people who live in this area whose absolute job it is to be gatekeepers for this, but also whose job it is to maybe dissuade or dismantle or discourage the proliferation of these towns and developments? Are there people on site here whose job it is to keep this area as dark as possible, is what I'm asking. And are they still there? It feels to me they might be generational type of people. But yes.
Yep. So there's people sent there that are just there to sort of build the foundation to make it easier for these people for the nefarious activities. So I don't know if that would be making sure the towns fail or making sure towns get built there. Think about that, because that would bring more humans. It's a hunting grounds.
They don't care if it fails, then it's like a rinse and repeat. They build it, they destroy it, they build it, they destroy it.
They probably fail because people's loved ones go missing at an alarming rate, and people start picking up on the dark energy. It's like haunted or something energetically, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, now it's a national park. So they have we're going to talk about one hiking trail in specific. There's tons of trails there. So
Yeah.
people go there all the time. I mean, this is part of Appalachia. People go there all the time to hike and camp. And, so it attracts people anyway. But should we move on to the first person?
Sure.
So again, guys, we're only going to talk about 5 people that got the 5 from 1945 to 1950. Again, this was like over 70 years ago. So some of the information is a little bit shaky because it has been a long time. But the first guy in this group of people that gave this area the name the Bennington Triangle is a man named Mitty Rivers. Okay, he was 74 years old when he went missing. He grew up in the area, so he knew the area. And these 4 guys had come in from the city to go hunting, and they needed somebody from the area to be a tracker for them. And so Mitty Rivers at 74 took them out to track in these mountains. And the story goes that they were walking along the long trail, Long, the long trail, which is going to come into a few next cases as well. And Mitty kind of took off, all of a sudden started running ahead of them. And he turned the corner, and according to these guys that are probably no longer alive anyway, because this was in 1945, they thought he had run off to go set up camp for them. But when they turned the corner, he was gone, like nowhere to be found. The only thing they found left of his was like a casing from one of these that he carried, but it hadn't been used. It just kind of fell out. But his body was never recovered. No one knows what happened to him. Of course, there was a lot of suspicion on the 4 guys, but like, why would they, I don't know. There wasn't much motive there. So I don't know. So can we read Mitty?
Okay.
I love that name, by the way, Mitty Rivers. You don't hear those names much more anymore.
So are we being precise enough with the question? Do we want to channel the guy? Do we want to ask him what he wants to say the story was, if he's allowed to say even? What do you think is the best way to ask, Janine?
Well, since I already laid him out for that first question, we're just looking around him.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm getting that he did go ahead, thinking ahead, and did want to do something practical, like so maybe get the camp going. So the reason he went ahead looks like it's what those guys said. Okay, and that was his intention. Okay. So then this card comes up. It's very interesting. And 4. So that's a gateway card, and that's a sort of sudden fiery energy, almost like he got suddenly swept up in a gateway or suddenly went through a gateway, right? So this ace is very sudden and even fiery, or the energy of spirit or fire. So we went through, I think, a portal. I think it's a tarot card reading way of saying portal. 4 of Wands is the
unintentionally. He just unintentionally went through it.
Yeah, no, I think he was spontaneously sucked into a portal. That's what that looks like. So there's a portal there. Okay, hang on. 2 and yeah. It happened really suddenly, and it wasn't like he got completely swept into this thing. We've got the 2. This is like the 2 of, okay, if we're talking about something like a portal and we get the Temperance card, okay, the Temperance can't tell the difference between, like, I feel like it's the word I get in my head is upside down world. Okay, see this? The 2 cups in the Temperance, because I got this little voice in my head that said, talk about the details of the Temperance card and it'll make sense. Okay, so the details of the Temperance card are time stands still in the card, and you can't tell which direction the water is flowing between those 2 cups. So the idea is that it's a spirit world card talking about the universal timing. It has nothing to do with the earth plane.
Right.
No gravity. It's something different. And then right away, it makes me think of upside down world, because then it's shocking. And so it's not well aspected. Okay. Even though this is a great card, it's not being well aspected. So we'll just take the idea that maybe something's not functioning the same. So you're not in you're not in the world that we're in anymore once you go through the portal.
Would he potentially still be alive if he was taken into, even though he was 74 in 1948? I don't know how that works if you're transported into like a parallel world or.
Well, when Janine said fire, I got the image of this movie, and the title was Fire in the Sky. This is the Travis Walton incident. Of course, it's the other side of the United States, but here he's being beamed up, so to speak, in Star Trek terms, to a craft. It could be described in the cards as a portal also. So that's curious. If he was brought up someplace else, is he still alive in that particular time bubble dimension? Has time stood still for him? Is he still around or caught in this fire, as you call it, Janine?
Okay, that's really weird because I'm thinking yes, maybe.
Wow.
Thinking yes, because now I asked to talk to him. What does he want to tell us? So we've got this. So this is like maybe young again, in a safe place. So he's in a safe, he's watching, he's watchful. So he's in a safe place. So that's weird. Okay, so maybe it's not all bad that goes on through the portal. Maybe there's good aspects to it. I don't know, because this feels safe. None of this looks like he's in harm's way here. And he's youthful again, or something about reborn or youthful, or because we have very youthful cards here.
Wow.
74, that's kind of weird. So I think he reversed age there. It's an upside down world is what I'm getting.
Wow. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any follow-up questions, Bryce, on this guy?
Can you imagine being 74 and all of a sudden that happening to you? Like,
I feel like the bad guys got him. That feels like so there must be a mixture of energy here. The portal might be used by the dark, but maybe sometimes people get caught in it and it's not, they slip through the grasp of the bad guys.
Well, let's ask this then. This location where this gentleman disappeared, is it active today as it was in the day that he was caught up in it? Is there still activity there?
Okay, what I'm getting is it gets back, it's been fought over. So it gets fought over, just like in Antarctica. There's a lot of inner fighting over those portals. So it goes back and forth between the good strategy, between the good and the bad. Okay, so he was lucky because it was in the hands of some good energy at the time he left. So yeah, there's a lot of stress around who's in charge there. It's a stressful situation. In other words, it feels like a battle. So it goes back and forth. And right now, I feel like it's being brought to a I feel like it's being brought to a balance. In other words, justice is being served. So I think the place is being cleaned up.
Okay.
One of my moderators, Toronto, who worked on the Jesus strand with me, she just texted me. It's like Stranger Things, the upside down world, which Stranger Things was filmed here in Atlanta, but when they get sucked into that upside down world, if y'all have seen Stranger Things, and they always tell us the truth in the shows. So
Wow. I have like 5 more questions for this guy, but I realize we're already 18 minutes in and we have a few characters to go through. So maybe we'll do a part 2 at this point, but this is interesting for this part. There's somebody in the screen said, hey, who's this guy JC? Why is he on Bryce's channel? Okay. I didn't explain that at the beginning of the show. So today, of course, welcome. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic. We are triple casting today on Esoteric Atlanta, as you can see here, and also on Sending Ravens. We do these from time to time to more traffic to the website and share in this beautiful community. So if you like this kind of content, please come over here to Beyond Mystic and subscribe. And tonight you can join us with Tamara and Janine for part 3 of the Spotlight Australia. And of course, tomorrow night again with Janine, our weekly Wednesday live stream, and Thursday night, the Wacky Woo with Jason Ford. You don't want to miss that. If you're into the wacky stuff, come over and join us. Okay. next case is
This is the most
young lady
fascinating to
here.
me.
What's
Okay.
that?
This is the most fascinating one to me. This is actually the first one I covered on my channel. How much do you want me to tell you about her?
Give Janine just a basic synopsis, then we'll pull cards, and then we can add and maybe ask more questions.
All right. I'm
That
going to
make
tell
sense,
you
Janine?
guys, she came from a very, very powerful family. All right. Her name is Paula Jean Weldon. She went missing. Okay. All these cases, it's almost like the time we're in now is like the anniversary. All these cases all happened in the fall or winter, the last 3 months of the year. And so she went missing on the December 1 of 1946. She was a sophomore at the Bennington College in North Bennington, Vermont. So I'm going to tell you about the day she went missing. So she finished working at the Bennington College dining hall around 2:45 p.m. on December 1. She returned to her dorm to change clothes. Clothes were acceptable for that afternoon. Now, down here in Georgia, these clothes would not have been acceptable because we can't handle cold weather down here. But she basically had a light jacket on. And she told her roommate, a woman named Elizabeth Johnson, that she was just going to go for a walk on the long trail. Again, the long trail, the same place Mitty Rivers went missing. She didn't take any money with her, no bags, nothing. And she basically just disappeared. Now, people saw her on the trail. She had a red jacket on, so you couldn't miss her. They saw her on the trail, but then she never came back. Now, her father claimed he came up to try to help the search. Her disappearance is actually what inspired Vermont to get their own police force. Now, she had some issues with her family. She did not go home for Thanksgiving, and they had apparently sent her like a check for money, and she had not cashed it. It was still sitting on the desk. And her roommate was very suspicious of her family. And her father did come up and try to help them find her and was very critical of the authorities that were coming in from other states to help look. And he then said that she obviously had some boyfriend, and so she ran off with him. And then after that, a waitress in Fall Rivers, Massachusetts, claimed that she had served a woman in the diner that matched this woman's description. And apparently the father went to Massachusetts for 36 hours to search, but he was not there. And basically, on December 16th, 15 days later, Paula's dad packed up her belongings and left. And they basically stopped looking for her. And somebody brought this up on some commentaries. I was listening. I mean, you guys have kids. If your kid went missing, would you ever just stop looking for them?
No way.
What parent?
We're gonna ask questions about that. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So where do we want to start? Let's ask, what was the fate of this person? Was it similar to the first case, or is there a different scenario at hand, Janine? And while Janine pulls cards, Denise is asking, JC, what channel are you answering questions from? All three. So all three channels are simulcasting into our broadcast station, and I'm seeing the chat from all of you. So wherever you're watching this video, your chat is coming up on our live board. So thank you, Denise.
And on my channel, I do have all of these cases on separate videos, like with more detail. So if anybody's interested in seeing like the full story from what we have, you can go and look at those.
Okay, very good.
We don't have time for all the details though.
Okay.
Okay, she met with some kind of fate that was, I'm thinking, foul play. I'm not getting the off-world feeling to this. I'm getting human foul play. So something happened to her. And I wonder if the person they think they saw on the trail was somebody else, just to get you thinking that was her.
Interesting.
I feel like she was something already happened to her before this. So I don't know if she was on that trail with the red coat.
I did run across some information where apparently the roommate kept saying like this story is not what they're telling you. Like what did the roommate know more about? Did she know things about? Is it related to the family?
Yeah, there seems to be something weird going on with the family here.
She actually disappeared days before it was reported, and so something right around when she announced she was not going for Thanksgiving is when something happened to her. Something Somebody did something to her. I wonder if maybe the parent, that father, might have sent somebody.
She was the oldest of 4 kids, so she did have 3 younger siblings. Now, is the family part of this club?
Yeah, somebody in the chat was asking, were they selling their daughter perhaps to an occult kind of group for whatever purposes? The other question would be, was she being kidnapped for ransom, maybe? And that's why the family knew at some point not to look for her. They knew the outcome.
Yeah, so she was already passed away 4 days before they even said she was missing.
Wow.
She was already gone. And then this 10 beside it, which is like an ending card. So there's a facade. The family was not what it seemed. The family was not what it seemed. She was very independent and wanted to get away from her family.
Yep.
And yeah, so and they weren't gonna let her. So they were like, I don't think they personally did something to her, but they sent somebody to do something to her.
Wow.
So this isn't like anything like that other guys.
Was the roommate paid off, maybe not to say anything? Did she actually know something extra here, as Bryce was alluding to? Big yes.
Yep.
Wow.
And I feel like the darkest person in the family is the mom.
Yeah, well, there's a story. So when they got the phone, apparently, as the narrative goes, when they got the phone call that she had gone missing, the mom apparently like took to her bed and wouldn't come up, and like would not go up and help. So the father came up. But yeah, the roommate, Elizabeth Johnson, did not like the father. She was pretty vocal that there was something wrong. And as the father kept telling that they believed she had run off with some boy, that she just run off. And the girl kept saying, no, the roommate was like, no, that didn't happen. She didn't do that. And she was the one to tell people that Paula was struggling with her family, that there were issues there.
Yeah. She did have somebody she really cared about. But the family took care of her so she wouldn't end up with that person.
I'm getting also, there's another person who died in relationship to this. So either somebody who was trying to protect this girl, or maybe out the parents. Is it possible that there's another death attached to this whole story that has yet to be uncovered?
It's interesting, JC, because 13 years later, there was a skeleton that was found, but it wasn't Paula. They never found her body.
That feels like maybe her fella that she did really like. So maybe they took care of him too.
Wow.
Her boyfriend. She had a boyfriend is what I get. And the family didn't want her having anything to do with that guy.
Okay. Wow, fascinating. Deborah Marchand, she's saying, JC, please ask my question about evolved humans off-planet portals coming back next year, part of our soul family. Please hope to see this. I'm not sure how that relates, Deborah, but I'll keep that in mind for a little bit later on the show if we have time for it. Okay, let's go back to, I guess, the third case.
The third case, there's a picture. This one's interesting as well.
Not this one.
That's the last one. So we've got 2 cases in between that I couldn't find any pictures because again, this was like over 70 years ago. So
right.
So this was James Tedford. Now they always talk about James Tedford being the person that went missing, but there's a weird story with his wife too that I found in my research, and people don't really talk about that. So James Tedford, in 1941, the United States entered into the Second World War. Now, James Tedford at this point was 56 years old. He was a war veteran from a small town in Vermont, and he decided to re-enlist. He left his wife and his life behind, but when he returned, that's when his life turned upside down. His wife went missing one day too. Now, his wife was a good bit younger than him, and she basically left the house one day to go to the store and just never came back, and no one ever heard from her again. The house was in totally tip-top shape, no suitcases missing, no clothes missing. There was even food in the oven when she left. People saw her at the store and she seemed fine. A lot of the reports I read said that she must have left him because he was so much older than her. But that, I mean, I've always dated older than me, so I don't see how that's even an issue. But she just kind of vanished. After she vanished, James basically fell apart. And in he would just sit and stare at the wall. In 1947, he was moved into the soldiers' retirement home in Bennington, Vermont. He had family in St. Albans, so he would frequently take an 8-hour bus ride to his family, and this went right through the Bennington Triangle. December of 1949, James left to go visit his family. On the way back to the retirement home, James vanished into thin air. 15 other people on the bus with him. He left his luggage, cash, personal belongings. His bus timetable was left behind on the seat. Some reports say that the bus made no stops, but other reports said it was an 8-hour trip. They could have made a stop, but people literally saw him sitting in the bus, 15 other people. And by the time the bus got to its final destination, he was gone, but his stuff was all still there. And his body's never been found. His wife, who knows what happened to her years later or years earlier. So this is a head scratcher too, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, when you say he disappeared in thin air, did people actually see him go poof, disappear?
No, they just all of a sudden he was gone. And
Wow.
if he had tried to like get out of the window, they would have heard him. You know, it's like if he had tried to do anything to get out, they would have heard it, but he was just gone.
Wow. So this is a case of a portal maybe, or that fire in the sky thing going through the bus. So he disappeared, as far as we know, in the bus? Is that the theory?
That's what I'm getting. I mean, like again, this was 1949, so a long time ago. And some reports say the bus didn't make any stops, but some say there had to have been one stop at least for the bus to be able to travel that long of a distance.
Okay. All right. Janine, let's try to pull in on this individual here. What does he have to say?
While you were talking, Bryce, I did one on the woman. So she had a lover, developed a relationship with somebody in another town, was living a double life, and did leave him.
Oh, wow.
And she left everything the way she did because she planned to leave him. And she didn't want to be found. And she ended up going off and had other kids, or she already had another child with this other person or something to do with another child somewhere else with some other guy.
Well, I guess that would be easy to do if your husband is off fighting in a war.
Right. So something like that. And then he came back and she just, wasn't into it. So she took off. That's what I got, and lived a separate life somewhere else as a different person. So let's do this guy disappearing.
Okay.
James Tedford. Yes.
James. Okay. And Deborah, merci beaucoup. Peut-être pour demain soir, mercredi soir. Aujourd'hui, dans cet épisode, on regarde vraiment un sujet en particulier, donc c'est peut-être pas opportun pour nous de poser cette question, mais peut-être mercredi soir, ça me ferait plaisir. Merci.
Okay.
So what does James have to say?
Okay, two aces, really interesting. I'm getting like, so the other one got the feeling of fire, but this one has the feeling of water. So evaporating, physically evaporated. And then we've got this ace and this physically evaporated. Okay, this is weird. It's like there's obviously some spiritual, for a lack of a better word, or mystical energy in that spot. Okay, so I feel like there's a really powerful energy that could literally, I feel like he was literally, like he turned into mist.
Wow.
That's the feeling I get. Yeah, it's totally weird. It's like the other guy almost felt like a beam or a bolt of some kind. This guy feels like he was turned into mist. It has something to do with, like, it's weird. It has something to do with the elements. So the portal, so they must have passed through a portal and he was affected. He might have
Why
been just
him? Why was it him and not any of the other 15 on the bus?
yeah, he might have been just at the right spot in the bus. He might
Or
have
at the right frequency match.
frequency, right? Frequency. He might have been just at the right frequency where this energy sort of attracted to him.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is James. Is James now, was this his end? Or was this him transmuting to, again, a different time, space, or dimension? Is he still kind of around?
So that feels like he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like he's gone. And that, I said, who did that have to do with? That had to do with wise ancient beings. So we got off-worlders again, but this is a good off-worlder again. So this is really weird. I wonder if they were just taking him out of his misery.
Yeah, maybe because he was not talking. He had kind of gone into that place of just being.
I wonder if they just
the betrayal, the wife leaving, and all that. Yeah. Wow.
Weird. I wonder if it's a spot where it sort of behaves different for different people depending on your frequency, like you said, Jean-Claude.
Yeah.
If I saw somebody evaporate on a bus, I think I'd crap my pants. Like that. That actually happened.
I've heard of something like that a few times, like weird stories of people that just their shoes are left or something.
Yeah, spontaneous combustions. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's the fire thing. Yeah, but not the water. That's that's the opposite energy. That's fascinating.
Weird.
Wow. That deserves maybe another show. We'll get into the spontaneous combustion and something like that. That's really cool. Wow. Okay, Kathy Horn, Jean-Claude, I love it when you speak French. Hey, guys, I wanted to ask you, while you're watching the show, I'm speaking to the audience, would you like me to produce a French episode of this type of content? Tarot, maybe reading, some woo stuff, but 100% in French on this channel. Let me know in the live chat and let me know in the comments below. There's quite a few people who are emailing me about that. I'm like, oh yeah, but at the same time, my show is English. Most of my audience, I believe, is English, but I'd be curious to know if there's enough of you to make a show in French, or should I do another channel? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll consider
it. You don't have enough to do.
I'm going to live a few hundred years. So more than enough time. Lisa says, oh my God, I love when GC speak French. Okay. All right. So the next candidate also we don't have a picture for, right?
No, and this is going to be the hardest one because it's a child.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I've heard people have some pretty nefarious theories around this involving his parents. So I'm really curious to see what the that's my moderator, Toronto.
Thank you, Toronto.
She's also one of my co-researchers on the Jesus strand. So thank you, Toronto. She's up near you guys in Canada. Awesome. So this is a little boy named Paul Jepsen. And he went missing on the 12th of October, 1950. He was 8 years old. Now, his family owned a big farm near, like right at the edge of this triangle area. And his mother had to go feed the pig. So that was the story. And apparently from where the pigsty was, from the house, you had to drive your truck to get there. And Paul wanted to go with his mom. And so she said, okay, come on, threw him in the seat, and they went to the pigsty. Well, the mom apparently got out of the car to feed the pigs, and Paul stayed in the car. Now, from what I understand, the car was parked. They're on their private property, right? It's a farm. I mean, that was his, but she could still see the truck from her peripheral vision. Like, she could see the truck. And she was out for like an hour feeding these pigs. But when she got back, she noticed Paul was not in the passenger seat. He was not in the truck. Well, immediately, allegedly, her thought was, oh, he must have gotten out of the car to go play. I mean, this is his farm, right? Couldn't find him. She started screaming. The father came out. They all looked for him. They immediately called the authorities. There was no sign of them. They did bring in dogs at this point, and the dogs did pick up Paul's scent from the truck all the way to the end of the driveway, which was close to the entrance to the long trail. However, they lost the scent at the end of the driveway. And no one ever found a body. None of these people have ever, none of their remains have ever been found except the last case, which we're going to get to.
Okay, foul play by a guy who violently took him out, unfortunately.
Was it the father?
We got temperance. Yeah, it happened before they said it did, and there was a big fight. And this, I think this is a cover up.
Did they feed him to the pig's
This
body?
that was the first thing I thought. So we'll ask about that. When you were talking, I was like, okay, the pigs got him. So I think the father or a male who was on the property or something violently did something to him, and then they covered it up. This is a cover up. This is a upside down world kind of card. I feel like they were just covering up.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest theories, is that there was some ABUSE. I want to be careful what I say. And the parents took him out and then fed his body to the pigs in order to cover it up, which, like, how does a parent do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay, I get the father was doing things to the boy. And it got violent, and he overdid things. We'll just have to say it like that.
Is Paul at peace now? Will the cards let us know if he's at peace now?
He was joyful to be on the other side, away from those parents.
Is there anything he wants to say?
He looks like he's still planning to come back, and he's 80% figured out what he's going to do in his next lifetime, still working on it. So he was happy to get out of that. That was a really painful life. And there were so many secrets in the family. And he's saying you want to look around, more things in the family. There's all kinds of messy things in the whole family, and not just their, all of the relatives are, the whole family line is nefarious.
Wow, that's sad, but I'm glad he's happy. In that bigger picture, I'm glad that he is at peace now.
Mm-hmm.
It's my nephew's 9, so it's heartbreaking.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so people like that might be attracted to an area like that.
Yeah.
To put their farm right up against, you know what I mean? Because energy is interesting, and it attracts energy.
Yeah, because the father might have been acting as an agent for another force, whether he knew it or not. Right. So he could be like, you know how a doctor puts his hands through these gloves inside a case to manipulate something in a different container. The father might have been that container for another force trying to extract that energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
All right.
That's a hard one. Okay. So next one here. Same location.
Rita Langer. She, 1950 again, she went missing. She went on a camping trip with her family at Somerset Reserve, which is in the Bennington Woods, so same area. She and her cousin Herbert decided that they were going to take a hike. Soon into the hike, about a half a mile away from the camp. Now, they went with like a big family, like it was a big family camping trip. And so she was actually 53 at the time. And so she and her cousin Herbert decided to take a hike. And about half a mile in, she slipped in a stream, soaked her clothes. And so she told her cousin, like, just hang here. I'll be right back. I'm going to go change. Half a mile away, not that long of a distance. And he waited there, and he waited and waited and waited, and she never came back. And so he walked back to the campsite, and the family hadn't seen her since they had left. And so what's strange about this, again, is that half a mile is not that long of a distance at all. It would take you like maybe 7-10 minutes to walk that. Like, and you can typically see half a mile. And so the fact that they didn't see her, they didn't hear her get abducted, like nothing. They searched the whole area, obviously found nothing until 7 months later. So she disappeared on October 28th of 1950. And then 7 months later, a body was found in a field by the reservoir. This was May 12th of 1951. Some accounts say that this is for sure hers. Some accounts are like, wait, I don't think this is her body, because they didn't have the testing that they have now to even determine if it was possibly even a female body. So yeah, who knows if that was her body, but it showed up in an area that had already been searched. So regardless, it's weird that these remains just showed up 7 months later.
Okay. What do we get at first glance from the cards, Janine?
Okay, a guy, there's a big story around this. So the story's off. something happened to her before she even went. I wonder if they were all in on this. There's a big story here. It's not true. So the fact that she went on this trail with this guy could maybe even not true. I feel like she was long gone before that. There's a cover up going on here. And it also like a group of people or family was in on there's something happened to her by a group of people and humans, so not off-worlders or anything, like nothing like mystical like that, although they might have channeled some of that energy, but something happened and it was violent. And so everything's a story. The whole thing's made up. Maybe they even made up, they went to this place and she went on a walk. I think she was gone before that. So the whole thing was made up to cover up the actions of a group of people.
So people are using this area as a dump space, basically, to create stories when they want to get rid of someone.
And again, they might be acting as a third-party agent without them knowing to some of these energies in that location. So they're attracted to this on another level that they might not understand.
Yeah. They would have definitely had to be of the persuasion of. So I asked, okay, give me an example of, or let me know who in particular did something. So this guy can be in the army or military. So if there was an army or military person in the group and a father figure or the leader, male leader.
A cop? A police officer, maybe?
Definitely could be, yeah. But it would depend on, like, but there's a bunch of people related that were in on this, is what I get, or a group. So we got a group. So a group, but they had a leader, and the leader might have been ex-military, current military, or police, or like something like that. So that alpha male type. So there was a leader. And that leader was most directly like responsible for what happened to her. And then the whole thing was a cover up.
Wow.
I actually, if anybody watching has ever been to the Bennington Triangle, I'd love to hear if you've had any crazy stories in this area, because definitely don't want to go there myself. But
not alone.
Maybe after everything switches, then yeah.
But let us know in the chat if you have direct experiences in the area or with these cases or other cases. We might do a part 2 of this. Just Myth on the screen is asking, says Janine should do a missing 411 case show. Yeah, I was just thinking before that guy typed that in. I'm like, oh, maybe we should do like a unsolved mysteries.
We should. I just touched base with it in a very short. I think it was a deep dive, but it was really short. So I think it'd be really, and we did get that. These people were being taken, I thought, by military, but it was really advanced military, which could be off-world or military, right? And because I felt almost futuristic military is the weird feeling I got. And I got they were being taken underground. And I got that it was a hunting grounds for sure that was going on in all the parks. That was like the hunting grounds.
Yeah, and I know, like, with the Jekyll Island stuff too, it comes back to that as well. There's a lot going on, and the whole Gabby thing that's happening right now, part of me feels like they're trying to draw attention to why some of these places are marked off as national parks. Why did they select these places to be like government preserve? It's very strange. And there's so many cases I'm about to cover on Monday on my channel, a more modern case that's huge. It's a huge case, but of course the more modern ones, we have more information than these older cases.
Right.
But do we have time to do the Glenn and Bessie Hyde case?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Okay. So now we're going to move all the way to
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm on the right slide with you. So hold on. And first, there's somebody in the chat saying, here we go again, more Charlie Ward nonsense. What channel are you watching? What are you talking about, Charlie Ward nonsense? Some people on the show, they make me laugh sometimes. All right. So here we're going in this neck of the woods. Am I in the right spot?
Yeah, that's Colorado River. I've actually rafted some of the Colorado River before. And nowadays, if you want to do that, you can get a commercial trip where they have someone that takes you. And you've got all the safety requirements, all that kind of stuff. But with this case, we're going to talk about that stuff did not exist then. Like, they did not have commercial people. It was like basically take this river at your own risk. And anybody who's ever studied literature, I mean, hello, Old Man in the Sea, you know, man versus nature, nature always wins. And so with this disappearance, a lot of people just assume that these two were taken out by nature. However, I don't know, because none of their remains have ever been found again. And so, and there's also a more, even though this case took place in 1928, so it's older than the Bennington Triangle cases, there's a lot of information on this case because this couple was kind of being followed by some journalists. So let's get into the story a little bit. So Bessie and Glenn Hyde were the couple that went missing. Glenn was 27 years old. Bessie was 22 years old at the time. She was already married before. I mean, this was a scandal in 1928 to be married before, especially for a woman. She was from West Virginia. She ran off to San Francisco to study art. She wanted to be a poet. If you read through a lot of her poetry, she obviously really had a wanderlust and wanted to go on adventures. And she met Glenn Hyde on a boat from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Now, he grew up in Idaho, and he grew up by what's called the Snake River in Idaho. So by the time this happened, Glenn Hyde was considered to be a very experienced river runner. And so he had this plan. They actually got married like the day after her divorce was granted. Scandal. But they had this plan. They got married in the spring, and they spent the whole summer. He built his boat himself. Most of the boats, like 45 other people men had already taken this run before, and he wanted to build his own boat. They did rowboats. He built a special boat, and they were going to start their trip in the fall. And Glenn's plan, from what I understand, was he was going to navigate this whole trip in less time than anyone had ever done before. Not only that, if Bessie could make the trip with him, she would have been the first woman to make this run. And so Glenn, from what I understand, he kind of had this like get rich quick scheme where they were going to do this big adventure for their honeymoon, and then they were going to write books and travel around the world and talk about their experiences. And he just kind of thought he had this all planned out. So now something interesting too, at this point, it was not considered kosher to have a life jacket in the boat with you. And so they did not have any life jackets with them. So they had no safety equipment with them at all. So they were last seen on November 18th of 1928. This is actually the last picture taken of them. And they had stopped, they had stopped at a point in Arizona where the Kolb brothers were there. You could stop on places and get supplies. And Emery Kolb took that picture. Now, Emery Kolb does come back later in the story because he was really concerned about Bessie. From what he said, now the press was there as well. They were interviewing them. They had like 2 weeks left of their trip. They were almost done. And they were going to end in Needles, California. And apparently the last 2 weeks of the trip were going to be the worst, like the roughest. And Betsy was like, apparently she was fit to be tied. She wanted to go home. She was not having fun. And Emery was also concerned because apparently the weather was going to be shifting, and he wanted them to at least take life jackets. But of course, no, that wasn't possible. And they went ahead and left. And apparently, Emery Kolb was kind of keeping track of them. Of course, there were no cell phones back then, so he's probably calling all the other stops to see if they'd seen them. And they never showed up at their spot in Needles, California. And when they never showed up in California, they decided, Emery Kolb alerted the authorities, and he led the search. They found the boat at river mile marker 237. Now, everything was still in the boat. All the supplies were accounted for. The only thing missing was Glenn and Bessie. And a lot of people, this kind of disproves that they were taken out by nature, because if you've ever run a river or rafting, when a wave takes you out, it takes the boat out too. You flip, the boat flips with you. You don't just flip without the boat. And so the fact that this boat was like up and everything was still tied into the boat says that they didn't flip. They just disappeared. And they did know that they had set up camp around river mile 225. So somewhere in that 12-mile distance, they went missing. Now, her journal was found in the boat. There was nothing too interesting in the journal. Apparently, her last entry was on November 30th. Again, so the story gets even wilder if you want me to keep going. the case kind of just went on as this unsolved case. And then 1971 came around and they started doing these commercial runs. And the guy leading a run decided to take this group down the same path. They stopped at the same camping site that Glenn and Bessie Hyde had stopped at. And of course, around the campfire, he's telling them ghost stories and folklore. And they tell the story of Bessie and Glenn Hyde, how they never been found. Well, there was a woman on the group who was in her early 60s. So she would have been about the right age as Bessie. And she claimed she was Bessie. And she claimed that she was exhausted and had begged Glenn to halt the trip, but he said no. They got into a physical altercation. And then she basically took him out, buried his body, and then hiked all the way to a bus stop and made her way back to Arizona. Well, turns out this woman who was a psychologist from the East Coast had a habit of trying to like fuck with people. Like she ended up taking the story back. But it's interesting too, this whole idea of Bessie like taking Glenn out, because Glenn was a good bit bigger than Bessie. And as a woman, I don't think I could take him. I don't think I could do that. Like I just, anyway, I don't know if that would have been a physical possibility for her because she was smaller than him. That's just my opinion though. But years later, a body was found on Emery Kolb's property. A skeleton was found. And many people suspected that Emery Kolb was a little bit obsessed with Bessie. And so maybe Glenn Hyde, and they made up this story. I don't know. There was a hole in the skull. I'm going to try and be careful about what I say. But this guy, Dr. Walter Burby, a forensic anthropologist, examined the remains. The body was of a white male around 6 feet tall in his 20s with light brown hair. He would have been taken off the earth plane in the 1920s. So it does match the age, the description, and the time of this body's demise. But he wasn't happy with that theory. So he like photoshopped photos on top of the skull, and apparently the bones didn't match. So now we have another mystery. Who the hell is this guy buried in Emery Kolb's backyard? In 1992, a woman named Georgia White Clark passed away. And that's the old lady picture I sent you, Jean-Claude. She was a famous river runner. And when going through her friends went through her possessions, they found a birth certificate that said her name was Bessie. And they also found the marriage license for Bessie and Glenn Hyde. So some of her friends speculated that Georgia White Clark could have been Bessie Hyde. However, again, forensic scientists took the pictures of her throughout her life and put them on top of Bessie's photos, and the skulls, the bones did not match up. So take that for what you will, but there are people that still believe that this is Bessie Hyde and that she did do something to Glenn and just lived her life with another identity. So that's basically, other than that, there's been no trace of this couple since 1928, like nothing. As far as having the possessions, Georgia White Clark, people say that she must have like found them while she was rafting and collected them, or found them at a flea market. But I think it would be pretty strange to find someone's marriage license and decide to keep it. I don't think I would want to keep somebody's marriage license in my possessions, or some random birth certificate, so that is kind of strange as to why she would have those things in her possession. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow. That's one story for a movie. Holy crap. Where do you want to start on this one, Janine?
Well, I do get the feeling that this Bessie was really upset and left, and the guy went looking for her. So she stomped off. So I don't get she took out the guy. I get she stomped off and he followed her. Okay. And then something happened in that scenario where, the guy, he might have done something to her, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
He's alive and she's not in these two cards, right? So, and then it was, he hid it, but I think he ended up trying to figure out what to do and ended up also dying himself somehow in nature. So I kind of get they both ended up. So he ended up alone. He did away with her, but it was more a passionate sort of, like, it feels like anger and passion. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying.
Right.
It wasn't a pre-planned thing. She stomped off angry, and she was going to, I've done this before when I'm mad at somebody. I'll like, stop the car, and out I get. and I'm just going to walk. I don't care where I am. You know what I mean? And she did one of those, and he went after her. It got violent. She died. Anyway, then he was alone and didn't know what to do, distraught. And so it's not like he was very good at doing things like that to somebody. And I feel like he died alone exposed to nature, and because he wasn't thinking straight and
misery.
And this is in the Grand Canyon area. And I know that there are, according to the Native Americans in that area, there are like Egyptian mummies in the Grand Canyon. There's parts of the Grand Canyon that we are not allowed into. Is it possible that their bodies have been put somewhere that we will never see because it's been marked off by the government? I mean, of course, animals could have gotten their bodies too. And that's why we've never found their remains.
So I think they were ripped apart maybe by animals.
I wanted to go there too. I was set up to do a whole thing on Egypt here, but this story does not have any markings of this weird story of underground cities and all of that. It doesn't. It just seems like a weird situation of passion.
This was a whole series of unfortunate events that just one thing led to another, and the guy didn't know what to do. So he just left her body. But I get he was wandering around in distraught and because he's not naturally a killer, but it happened.
Right.
He got too violent with her. And then I get he ended up dying himself, mostly because he wasn't really thinking straight or taking care of himself in the situation. So he died too. So they both wandered off. She stomped off first. He followed her. Things got ugly. And then maybe bodies got spread around by animals.
I'd love to do a show on the Grand Canyon and the Egypt.
I think that lady did find their stuff.
Yeah, let's go ask about her before we finish. Yeah. What's her connection to this whole story? What can the cards tell us?
Like if that lady had a Scorpio moon or something, I could see her stashing away the certificate or whatever. Like people are weird, right? Like
I have a Scorpio moon, so I think I probably have some weird stuff too somewhere.
And I'm weird. Like I'd probably but I don't know if I'd do that, but you know what I mean? Like we're just different people with different birth charts do different weird things, right?
Yeah. Lisa DiMartino is saying, "Hey, JC, tell us about the Egyptian connection at some point." There's a documentary called the Pyramid Code, I think. The Egyptian or the Pyramid Code. I'll look for it here. Big Sweer was also on that track about some of the pyramids in the Grand Canyons, the gold, the hidden gold. There's a lot there, guys, and more of that story is coming out also in our collective consciousness. So it might be for a future show for sure. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that.
She kept it. Because she was thinking she would keep it and do something with it later. She was thinking she might write a book about them, or she was thinking she could use it somehow later. So she kept it privately or secretive. She was going to do something with it. But I get she ended up not procrastinating and not doing what she was going to do with it.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Was she related to the guy? Was she a friend? Was he a friend of the family? Did she actually know the story of what happened to the couple, and that's why she was holding it on to that? She was somehow connected to this whole story?
Isn't that interesting you say that? So I get towards the guy, we've got love, and then I also got the sun. So she might have had some kind of emotional connection to the guy, and it could have even been just hearing his story or reading the stories about those two. Who knows? I don't know if it's literal or more just an emotional. Maybe she just had a real connection to the story of the couple. And in particular, it looks like the guy.
Wow. Okay. What was this last slide, Bryce?
That's the Cole brothers where they stopped for their last picture.
Okay.
And again, this was 1928. So, that was a big deal back then to stop and get your picture taken. And the media was there to because they were making good time. They were going to. That's the body that was found.
Yeah.
On the property. I mean, I still know who that guy is. Like,
well, okay, Janine. Let's quickly. We're at 1 hour 3 minutes here. Let's ask this guy who he is. Well, how is he related to all of this? Is he just another?
He was on
dead-
Emery Culp's property, buried in the property, and there was a hole in his head from one of these.
Is he from the same
Yeah.
time frame? Like
That guy got, done away with, we'll say, violently. So that would explain the hole in his skull. And I feel like he was like, I'm getting he was a worker or a miner or he did some manual labor in the area. And I'm going to ask if he's connected to.
was he a river guide? Like a wilderness guide? Is a worker in the area? Like, or is he more of a guide, a hunter, a guide? Maybe somebody who knew where some of these passages were, some of the secret areas. Let's go back to this guy here. No?
No, he did a job that was really hard and hard labor.
Okay.
Yeah, he did like worked physically in the earth is what I get. 8.
Okay.
It had no connection to the guy's property. The guy who owned the property doesn't feel like who's.
So Emery didn't take him out.
And I actually get it could have been a sibling of the guy who was taken out. His sibling took him out. There was a sibling problem.
Okay. Man. Wow. Qbert says, "Oh my God, fantastic show! Wish it was 2 or 3 hours." Yeah, we get 2 or 3 hours. We have so many shows to do, but yeah, I love the frequency of the show. I love the dynamic of this. I don't know, unsolved mysteries or missing 411 type of thing.
There's so many cases. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's more modern ones too that I'm about to cover a modern one on Monday on my channel. It'll be released. Of a modern case. So there's a ton. I mean, these national parks are going on.
I'm getting in that triangle, the energy vibration is absolutely got a death energy around it.
The original triangle you're talking about?
Yeah.
This one.
That triangle, I feel like, or a lot of this area we're talking about, are they in similar areas, all these cases?
Opposite end of the country.
East Coast is it's actually south of Jean-Claude and north of me.
Okay, because I was asking about that triangle because for some reason I thought it was all in that area. But that triangle definitely has an energy vibration that would lead to violence and not good things, which is what those indigenous people were picking up on.
Yeah.
And there's spots like that. I've gone to places where I had to get the heck out of there.
I was just at a place like this past, we went to a national park in Florida, and I love to hike, and we had our dog out, and we were there for like 10 minutes, and I feel like my energy, it's like someone just takes like a cap off, and my energy, we had to leave. I could not stay there. There was something there that, so I get that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Janine, going back to the beginning of our show, ETs, portals, most of these people so far are not ET related, save maybe the first character here. Now,
2 of them were. The guy on the bus, maybe
not. Oh, yeah,
ET,
the vaporized guy. Yeah.
Some kind of weird. Yeah, it felt like off-worlders had something to do with it.
Yeah. And was it the same people, the same off-worlders, or 2 different different factions?
The second one was that hermit card. So it felt, and the other one felt like, didn't feel the same. And they're still, that guy's energetically still somewhere.
Yeah.
And he's young. He's forever young. There's this youthfulness to his energy.
Mm-hmm.
Very strange. And he watches, like he sees what goes on the earth. Actually, it looked like it was like he had some kind of visual to the planet or whatever, or what, this place that we're on.
Wow.
Whatever it is. We don't even know.
Because who knows? It's getting so confusing, and
wow.
I don't want to be known to say the globe we're on in case it isn't right.
Whatever we're standing on.
We don't know where we are, and we don't know when we are. That's
who we are.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
At least I feel grounded in my soul essence. That's all I got right now. That's it. And yeah.
I just know that we don't know. There you go, folks. All right. Hey, guys, if you want more of these amazing investigations, the next episode is coming up on Esoteric Atlanta. When are you posting this here?
I've got one dropping tomorrow, which is just the recap of the Yoga Sutras, and there'll be a few more drop this week. But the next National Park case will be on Monday. It will drop on Monday on my channel.
Okay, very good. So, folks, go check it out. If you're here watching on Janine or my show, go check out Esoteric Atlanta and subscribe to her amazing channel. And also, if you're watching here, please do go and subscribe to Sending Ravens and also Tarot by Janine. Janine, anything new coming up on Tarot by Janine here in the next couple of days? What are you looking at right now?
Well, I just did December's look, so that's pretty interesting. And I was going to do... Oh, I can't remember.
We're doing so many shows. I know. What did we do last night?
I had a great idea that I was going to do for tomorrow, but I just can't remember right now, believe it or not.
It'll probably come to you. All right. And folks, also please do come and subscribe here to Beyond Mystic 3, our third attempt here at recreating this community on YouTube. Join us tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern with Janine and Tamara. This is part 3 of the Spotlight Australia. Hopefully we have a good connection this evening. And of course, tonight, our live stream with Janine. And we'll try to get to some of those off-worlder questions that Deborah was asking earlier in the show. So if you guys are still interested in some of those more cool questions that are off topic to the episode today, join us here on Wednesday night. We'll try to get to them as best we can. And also on Thursday, of course, the Wacky Woo with Jason 4 back again in the house for the month of December. It's going to be a really cool show. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This was Secrets Revealed with Bryce and Janine. What a really cool concept show. We might actually have to rebrand it into something cool. Missing, unknown, I don't know. We'll think about it. And if you guys like the show, please do go ahead and use the PayPal tip jar. Encourage us to do even more of these shows for you guys. We always appreciate the tips, of course. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic. This was the amazing Bryce above me and Janine on that side there. I love you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Au revoir.